Hey, good morning. This is Keith from Keith Greer Coaching. I hope you're all doing well. The last time we were together, I shared with you a little bit about some of my thoughts regarding some upgrades in how we think about the language we use to talk about substance use disorder and those that are impacted by it. And I spoke specifically about the word addict and words like clean and dirty. And I want to continue that theme, but carry it over to some of the language that has historically been used in our interaction with family. I would make the argument that in the relational world, there is no more complex relationship than loving somebody with every fiber of your being who is struggling with an active substance use disorder. There's no rules that work for everybody. Nobody has written a definitive book on exactly how to love somebody who is struggling with a disease that has symptoms that are in the behavioral realm that are hurtful to self and others. There's two words in particular that we have used forever that I would argue we need to jettison from our helping vocabulary. One word is enabler. So I want you right now to think about everybody in your life, maybe even including yourself, who has ever been accused of being an enabler. And I want you to think about the behavior they engaged in that caused somebody to use that very judgmental term towards them. Now, what's your guess? If we walked up to that family member or friend or significant other right after they engaged in that behavior, and we asked them the following question: did you think that was going to help? What do we all know they would tell us? Well, of course they would say yes. They thought it would help. And so as helping people or friends or family members, that in the complexity and the vulnerability of loving somebody who maybe has been struggling with active substance use disorder for years, I as a loved one will do whatever I need to do if I think it would help. What I find as a helping person, whether it was in my days as a clinician or now as a coach, is if I honor that moment, I then get to ask the next question, which is, did it work? And what I find time and time again with family members is they have no difficulty looking at you with sadness, a level of resignation, and say, no, it didn't, but I thought it would. We need to be able to honor that moment without calling people names. The next word that I would love to see us get rid of is the term codependent. So again, I'll ask you the same question. Think of people in your life who you know have been labeled as codependent. In fact, I've worked with family members before who have come out of family programming who've told me they've been diagnosed with codependency, which, by the way, I think we all know, is not a formal diagnosis. But once again, who has been given that label? Now, every time I ask groups that question, and I ask them, more males or females historically being given a label of codependent? Goes without question, more females. So for me, the next place I go is, then that must be a gender issue. And so I get curious, how over time have we taken a series of characteristics that we have historically valued in women, and quite honestly us men could use a little bit more of, like loving, caring, compassionate, selfless, giving, and somehow in this conversation, we've pathologized those characteristics and we have wrapped up the sheer complexity of all of that in a simple judgmental word, calling somebody codependent. So again, if we ask that person, did you think that behavior was going to work? They would tell us yes. And as helping people, we can honor that moment without ever calling anybody a name. The last thing I'll say about this is I've had the opportunity through my career to provide both clinical supervision and mentor coaching. So I've been involved in many conversations with many helping people. And I know for me that if any of those folks walked in to a meeting with me to talk about somebody they were working with and simply described them as either an enabler or codependent or even worse, dysfunctional, what that would tell me is that helping person sees them simply, sees them judgmentally, and has done nothing to identify strengths. We need to help people identify strengths as they deal with loving somebody with an active substance use disorder. We need to honor how difficult that relationship is, and we need to engage with them in a way that creates hope. Oh, by the way, I really would love to hear what you think on this issue. Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation.